An old legend says that if a princess doesn't marry someone before turning 18, a troll known as the Mountain King will come down from the mountain to take her as his bride. To avoid that, a king of a distant land decides to marry his daughter Kristen to an arrogant and selfish nobleman called Frederick. To the king, the young nobleman is a perfect choice for Kristen, but she disagrees with her father and escapes to avoid marrying Frederick. Then we meet Espen, a young dreamer and our main protagonist. He is on his way home when suddenly Kristen shows up galloping like the devil is chasing her. She scares Espen, who falls from a bridge. Kristen comes down to check on Espen, but he pulls her in the water as a cheeky payback. After some chatting, Espen shares food with her, and the two enjoy a pleasant meal and a good conversation. However, when Espen asks Kristen where she is headed so fast, she decides not to tell him and leaves immediately. Espen returns home to his brothers, Paul and Per, who are unhappy because Espen didn't help them with work. Their father shows up, asking Espen if he bought the food. His son tries to explain what happened and why the food is gone. His father tells him to wait in the house while he goes hunting with Per and Paul. The night falls, and Espen is doing one of his favorite activities, playing with ashes, when suddenly he hears a loud noise outside. Thinking it's a troll, Espen starts goofing around with a poker, imagining that he is fighting the beast. The result of that goofing is a massive fire that begins consuming the house. Then we see Kristen riding through the forest when something attacks her. Espen's father and brothers return in the morning only to find ashes instead of their house. Espen tries to explain everything, but in vain. Suddenly, Frederick shows up with his men, asking the family if they saw Kristen. He informs them that the princess is missing and that whoever finds her will be given a nice reward. Espen lies and says that he never saw her, but Frederick finds him suspicious. He tries to get the truth from him, but the father convinces him that Espen doesn't know anything. Frederick and his men ride away, leaving the family to mourn the loss of their house. The father tells Per and Paul that they need to find the princess because the reward will help them rebuild everything they lost. He tells Espen to leave and never return because he never does anything right, calling him the Ash Lad. However, Espen follows his brothers, and when Paul sees him, he and Per decide to accept him. On their way, Espen annoys Per by constantly talking and picking up old objects like a broken mirror and an old helmet. Suddenly, they hear someone calling for help, but Per thinks they do not have time to waste. So he leaves with Paul. Espen goes off a trail and finds out that a witch got her nose stuck in a tree stump. He helps her and gives her something to eat, explaining where he is headed. In return, the witch tells him that there is a sword that can slay the troll. She gives him a magic map that can show him the location of anything, in this case, where the sword is. He uses the map and discovers that the magic sword is in a pond in the middle of a swamp. Espen continues the journey alone, finding Kristen's pin in the troll's footprint. At that time, Per and Paul find a basket full of golden apples that taste like heaven. After emptying the basket, 3 girls show up, saying they will get even more food if they follow them. Hungry and tired, the brothers agree to come with them. After some time, Espen ends up near the place where the girls took his brothers. He finds a golden apple, and when he tries it, he immediately goes forward. There, he finds his brothers acting weird while having a feast with girls who constantly talk about marrying them. While the brothers are eating, Espen, for a brief moment, sees that the food is rotten. He stops eating and sees an accurate picture of this feast. All of the food is rotten, and the girls look horrid. He discovers that they are hulders, forest nymphs that seduce and kill young men. He acts naturally and asks the girl if he can talk with his brothers about marriage. The hulders, not knowing that he saw their magic, agree, and Espen moves away with his brothers. He gets them back to reality with a few good slaps, and they escape. Kristen wakes up in a cave with a few goats around her. Suddenly, a boulder moves, opening a passageway, and one goat heads in there. It doesn't end up well for her, as in a few moments the troll's hands emerge and drop the goat's remains for Kristen to eat. The brothers decide to take a brief break and they visit a tavern to have some lunch. They talk about the magic map and the sword, without noticing that Frederick is there. While acting like an arrogant jerk towards a barmaid, he hears the brothers talking about the magic objects. He goes to their table with his men and offers a nice amount of money to them if they give him the map. Per and Paul think it's a fair deal, but Espen doesn't want to hand the map over because he knows that Frederick only wants the throne and that Kristen doesn't love him. That spark lights a great fire, resulting in a brawl. Frederick and his men are in a better position because they are armed, but the brothers manage to put up a good fight. Frederick accidentally steps on a salad that one giant man is eating. That enrages the man who joins the fight, allowing the brothers to escape. They manage to get far away from the tavern, thinking that they are safe. However, the brothers are proven otherwise when Frederick shows up with his men. They chase the brothers off a cliff. Frederick again asks for the map, but Espen refuses to hand it over and jumps off the cliff with his brothers. Luckily, they survive and head to the swamp. On their way there, Espen finds an old bear pelt, and, you guessed it, he takes it with him. Then we see Kristen in the cave. The troll reaches out his hand to grab her, but Kristen hits his fingers with a rock, saying that she needs a wedding dress if he wants to marry her. And that way, she manages to buy more time. Soon, the brothers arrive in the swamp, which is covered in a thick veil of mist. Because of that, Espen separates from Per and Paul, who Frederick captures. He asks where Espen is, but Per says he died from the fall. Espen finds the pond where the sword is located. A creature attacks him, trying to drown him. However, he emerges victorious with the sword in his hand. Per and Paul are now Frederick's prisoners. Now he has the map. Suddenly, a bear emerges from nowhere, hurling at the group, but they quickly discover it's just Espen. Frederick now has the sword, too, and with the map, he finds out the troll's location, and he heads there with his men and new captives. They stop during the day because sunlight is deadly for trolls, and they are only active at night. The group enjoys dinner while the brothers are tied to a tree. Suddenly, they hear noises, and the troll attacks them. Espen cuts the rope and hides with his brothers, while the troll takes out Frederick's men, leaving the arrogant nobleman the last one standing. He thinks it is safe, but the troll shakes him off the tree. Espen notices that Paul brought food he stole from the camp, and he quickly throws it out because it will attract the troll. Everything becomes quiet, making the brothers believe that the troll has left. But he surprises them and grabs Paul. Espen and Per are alone, and together they head out to find the troll's lair, hoping they will find their brother and Kristen alive. In the troll's lair, Frederick lies to Kristen about his quest, making himself a hero. However, Paul intervenes, saying that Frederick told them he only wants the crown and tells Kristen everything he did. The nobleman starts making excuses, but Kristen hits him in the head with a lamb bone because she can't listen to him anymore. Paul then explains everything to Kristen, how Espen found the map and the sword, and how much he wants to save her. Kristen's face lights up as she hears the news. Soon, Espen and Per arrive in the troll's lair and find the captives. They save Paul, Kristen, and Frederick with a yarn that Espen found. The group then ends up in the cave where the troll is sleeping. They decide to sneak past the troll, and of course, Frederick fails, waking up the troll. They quickly get outside, and Kristen advises them to try and reach the top of the mountain because the sun will show up faster there. The troll gets out of his lair and starts chasing the group. Frederick hides away, showing that he is a true coward. The troll catches up with the group and corners them at the top of the mountain. Espen takes out his sword, ready to kill the troll, but the giant creature just slaps him. Suddenly, Per throws a stone at the troll, enraging him. He hits Per so hard that he loses consciousness. Everything seems lost, but Espen remembers something. He quickly goes to his bag and pulls out the broken mirror he took at the beginning of the journey. He adjusts it to shine sunbeams at the troll, blinding him and buying more time. But the troll is still persistent in smashing Paul, Per, and Kristen. Luckily, the sun comes out and turns him into stone. Per wakes up, and the group heads to a king's palace. There, Kristen tells everything to the king. How Espen and his brothers saved her. How Espen killed the troll. Then we can see Frederick as he roams through the woods. He sees the witch who helped Espen. Being an utter idiot, Frederick insults her and rudely asks for directions to the king's castle. The witch gives him directions, and as he leaves, a smile appears on her face. Back in the palace, the king asks Espen what he wants as a reward, and he replies that he wants gold so he can rebuild their house, explaining that marrying the princess and ruling the kingdom is too much responsibility for a simple man like him. The brothers then return to their father, who welcomes them with joy. Per and Paul tell him about Espen's bravery. The father apologizes to Espen for what he said before, explaining that he did it in anger. He also apologizes for calling his son Ashlad. Espen tells his father that he understands everything and doesn't mind the nickname. Then he hands over a bag of gold to his father. After some time, we see the family is almost finished rebuilding their house. Kristen shows up, and Espen goes on a date with her. Poor Frederick is still lost in the forest because the witch tricked him. He sits on a rock, crying, when suddenly a golden apple rolls towards him. His face lights up as he takes a bite, and the Hulder shows up with her sister. The movie ends there, with Frederick winning the lottery. If you enjoyed this movie recap, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want to see more of these, subscribe to the channel and check out our other videos.